I found my girlfriend in bed with my best friend when I came home early from work. When I walked in, she smirked. Perfect timing. We were just talking about how bad you are in bed. I didn't say a word. I just took a photo and left. 2 days later, they're blowing up my phone after I sent the picture to his wife and her parents. I'm not the type of guy who goes looking for trouble. Never have been. My dad was a cop for 30 years, and he always told me to pick my battles wisely. There's a difference between being weak and being strategic, he'd say. I took that to heart. I'm 32, work in cybersecurity, and until last week, I thought I had a pretty decent life. I've been with Melissa for 3 years. We met at a friend's wedding. She was a bridesmaid, I was a groomsman. Classic setup. She's beautiful, outgoing, the life of the party. I'm more reserved, analytical. We balanced each other out, or so I thought. We moved in together last year, splitting the rent on a 2-bedroom apartment downtown. Things were good, at least on the surface. We had our routine. I worked my 9-to-5, she worked at a marketing agency with flexible hours. Weekends were for hikes, movies, or hanging with friends. My best friend since college, Ryan, and his wife Jen, were our regular Saturday night dinner companions. Last Tuesday, I finished a security implementation ahead of schedule. My boss was impressed and told me to take the rest of the day off. It was around 2 p.m. and I thought I'd surprise Melissa by coming home early and taking her out for a late lunch. I should mention that I always text before coming home unexpectedly. It's just a courtesy thing we both do. But this time, I wanted it to be a surprise. Big mistake. I unlocked the door to our apartment as quietly as possible, thinking I might catch her watching one of those reality shows she pretends to hate but secretly loves. The living room was empty, but I heard voices from our bedroom. At first, I thought she was on a work call. She often takes them from bed when working from home. As I got closer, I recognized the second voice. Ryan. My best friend of 12 years. I'm not an idiot. I knew immediately what was happening, but some part of me needed to see it. Some primal part needed confirmation. I pushed the door open. There they were, tangled in our sheets. The sheets I had bought last month as a surprise because Melissa had mentioned liking them in a catalog. Ryan jumped up like he'd been shocked, grabbing for his clothes. But Melissa? She just lay there, looking at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Like a mask had slipped. Perfect timing, she said with a smirk that made my stomach turn. We were just talking about how bad you are in bed. Ryan at least had the decency to look horrified. Matt, man, I'm so sorry. Melissa cut him off. Don't apologize to him. He should thank us for not saying it to his face sooner. She actually laughed. God, it's such a relief not having to fake it anymore. In that moment, I saw someone I didn't recognize. Not the woman I'd loved for 3 years, but someone cold and cruel who had perhaps been there all along. I didn't say a word. I just took out my phone, snapped a clear photo of them both, and walked out. As I closed the door, I heard Melissa call out, "What, that's it? No screaming? No fighting? Just like everything else. No passion." I drove to a hotel and checked in. Then I sat on the bed and felt nothing. No tears, no rage, just a cold, clear focus I hadn't experienced since my competitive shooting days in college. I was in tactical mode. I didn't respond to any texts or calls that first night. There were plenty, mostly from Ryan, a few from Melissa. His were apologetic, desperate. Hers were defensive, then angry, then mocking. Way to run away from confrontation again. Ryan feels terrible, but I told him he has nothing to apologize for. Your stuff will be in the hall if you want to come get it like a big boy. I didn't engage. Instead, I made a plan. I called my cousin Greg, who had a spare room, and arranged to stay with him after the hotel, until I could find a new place. Then I called a lawyer friend for advice on how to handle this situation legally. First, I contacted my landlord. Fortunately, both our names were on the lease. I explained that due to personal circumstances, I'd be breaking the lease early. While the standard policy required 60 days notice, after explaining the situation and showing the photo, with intimate areas blurred, he agreed to an expedited process. I paid the penalty fee in full from my savings and signed the necessary paperwork to remove myself from the lease. The landlord understood the urgency and agreed to have the locks changed immediately due to the domestic situation. though he clarified Melissa would have 30 days as required by law to either qualify for the apartment on her own income or vacate. Second, I withdrew my half of our joint savings account. Nothing more, nothing less. I was careful to document the withdrawal and kept records of our equal contributions to the account over time. We'd never combined our regular checking accounts, thankfully. I also canceled any shared subscriptions and removed her as an authorized user on my credit card, making sure to time this when there wouldn't be any pending transactions to cause complications. Third, I went to my office early the next morning and used the secure connection there to create a simple, factual email. Before sending anything, I consulted with my lawyer friend specifically about the legality of sharing the photo. He confirmed that since the photo didn't contain explicit nudity and was taken in my own residence, where I was legally present, sharing it privately with affected parties would not violate any laws in our state. Still, I was careful with how I phrased everything. I attached the photo and wrote, "Jen, I'm sorry to share this with you, but I found Ryan and Melissa together yesterday. You deserve to know the truth. I'm available if you need to talk." I sent a similar email to Melissa's parents, with whom I'd always had a good relationship. "I've always respected you both and wanted you to know why I won't be at Sunday dinner anymore. I found Melissa with my friend Ryan yesterday. I'm moving out and moving on." Then I booked a moving company for the following day, when I knew Melissa would be at work. I arranged for them to pack and move my belongings to a storage unit I'd rented. I was meticulous about only taking what was unquestionably mine, furniture and items I had receipts for or that had been gifts specifically to me. Anything we had purchased together or items where ownership might be ambiguous stayed behind. I even left behind a TV I had bought, but that we had always considered ours. I wasn't interested in pettiness or property disputes. The fallout was nuclear, but I watched it from a safe distance from my cousin's guest room, where I'd settled temporarily. Jen called me within minutes of getting the email. She was devastated but grateful for the truth. She had suspected something was off with Ryan for months. Melissa's parents called next. Her father was especially upset. He had always treated me like a son, even taking me fishing on his boat while Melissa stayed behind, claiming she got seasick. They apologized profusely, though they had nothing to apologize for. It wasn't until the following evening, almost 48 hours after I'd walked in on them, that my phone exploded with notifications. "Ryan, Matt, please call me." Jen threw me out. "I need to explain." "Melissa, you had no right to contact my parents. They're talking about cutting me off. You vindictive asshole." Melissa again. "Answer your phone. You're ruining my life over nothing." Ryan again. "My kids won't stop crying. Jen won't let me see them. Please tell her it was a mistake." More messages poured in, increasingly desperate. Apparently, Jen had also shared the photo with their entire friend group. Ryan's parents, who had treated Jen like a daughter for years, were refusing to speak to him. His boss, who was friends with Jen's father, was suddenly reviewing Ryan's recent work performance. As for Melissa, her parents had indeed cut her off financially. This was significant because, as I'd suspected for some time, they had been helping with her half of the rent for months. Despite her impressive job title and designer wardrobe, she had dropped hints about family money, and I'd noticed her parents often transferred money to her around the first of each month. She spent her own income on expensive clothes and weekend trips with her girlfriends that I now realize probably included Ryan. Here's where I should clarify something. I didn't send those emails to be vengeful. I sent them because Jen and Melissa's parents deserved the truth, delivered without emotion or spin. I wasn't trying to destroy lives. I was simply refusing to protect people who had betrayed me. 3 days after the incident, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Melissa, calling from her friend's phone. "You've completely screwed me over," she spat. "The landlord says I have to qualify for the apartment on my own or move out. You know I can't afford this place on my salary." "That sounds like a problem you created," I replied calmly. "My parents won't even speak to me. They canceled my credit card. Again, consequences of your actions, not mine." "You planned this," she accused. "You pretended to be this passive, agreeable guy, but you're actually calculating in cold." I'm the same person I've always been, I told her. I just saved my warmth for people who deserved it. She was silent for a moment. Ryan's life is ruined. Jen is filing for divorce and full custody. Ryan ruined his own life when he slept with my girlfriend. If you're calling to make me feel guilty, you're wasting your time. I didn't think you had it in you, she finally said, her voice quieter. That was your mistake. I hung up and blocked the new number. A week has passed since then. I've rented a new apartment across town. I've been splitting my time between work, the gym, and helping Jen with her kids when she needs a break. She and I have formed an unexpected friendship, bonded by shared betrayal. Ryan has been staying with a cousin, drinking heavily according to mutual friends. He's already on probation at work. He keeps trying to contact me through different numbers and social media accounts. I block each one without reading his messages. Melissa was given notice to vacate our old apartment since she couldn't qualify for it on her own. Without her parents' financial support, and with her actual salary, she couldn't meet the income requirements. According to her sister, who reached out to apologize for Melissa's behavior, she's moving back to their hometown. Her marketing career in the city significantly set back. Not over, as some mutual friends exaggerated, but she'll have to rebuild her professional network in a smaller market with fewer opportunities. The most surprising outcome has been the reaction from our friend group. I expected to lose friends in the split. That's just how these things go. Instead, I've been overwhelmed by support from many, though not all, of our mutual friends. Turns out, Melissa wasn't well liked among several of my friends. They tolerated her for my sake. And Ryan had apparently hit on several of our female friends over the years, but they'd never told me to avoid creating drama. A few friends have remained neutral, particularly Ryan's cousins and a couple of Melissa's coworkers who were in our extended circle. They've distanced themselves from everyone involved, which I completely understand and respect. I'd rather have a smaller circle of genuine friends than people who feel obligated to pick sides. As for me, I'm doing better than expected. I don't miss Melissa. That version of her never existed. I miss who I thought she was. I miss the friendship I thought I had with Ryan. But I don't miss the illusion. My dad called yesterday after hearing what happened from my mom. He didn't offer platitudes or tell me I'd find someone better. He just said, "You handled it like a man should. Strategic, not weak." For those wondering about the legality of what I did, I consulted a lawyer friend before taking any action. The photo I took was in my own home where there's no expectation of privacy. I didn't distribute it publicly or post it online. I sent it privately to affected parties. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine, didn't damage any property, didn't threaten anyone. I simply shared the truth and removed myself from the situation. Some might say I was cold or calculating in my response. Maybe I was. But when Melissa smirked at me in our bed with my best friend and mocked my most intimate vulnerabilities, something switched in me. I realized that sometimes the most powerful response isn't a shouting match or a fistfight. It's the calculated application of truth. They underestimated me because I'm usually quiet, because I prefer resolution to conflict. They mistook kindness for weakness. That was their fatal error. As my dad also likes to say, don't mistake the sheathed sword for a dull one. I'm moving forward now. A clean break, a fresh start, and a valuable lesson learned about the difference between who people pretend to be and who they really are when they think no one's watching. Update. 2 months later. It's been just over 2 months since everything went down, and since many have asked for an update, here it is. First, about me. I'm doing well. The new apartment is smaller, but in a better location. I've taken up kickboxing 3 times a week, partly for fitness and partly as an outlet for the anger that occasionally surfaces. My job offered me a promotion last month. Apparently, the focus and efficiency I've shown since the breakup has been noticed. Now for the fallout. Ryan's divorce proceedings began remarkably quickly. Jen was fortunate to have a family friend who's a divorce attorney who helped fast-track the initial filings. They've already reached a tentative settlement agreement, unusual in such a short time, but not yet finalized. The court still needs to approve their arrangements for property division and custody. He's paying temporary support, and has limited supervised visitation with his kids for now due to concerns about his drinking. He lost his job last month after his performance declined drastically. He still tries to contact me occasionally, but the messages have changed from apologetic to accusatory, claiming I went nuclear and destroyed his life over one mistake. I haven't responded to any of them. As for Melissa, she indeed moved back to her hometown. According to her sister, who has kept in touch, their parents eventually started speaking to her again, but have maintained their financial cutoff. Melissa is working at her cousin's salon and living in a small apartment her parents own, but make her pay rent for. She's apparently been telling anyone who'll listen that I'm psychotic and emotionally abusive, claiming I manipulated everyone against her. No one who actually knows me believes it. The most unexpected development involves Jen. We've continued our friendship, finding genuine support in each other's company. Last month, she asked if I'd be interested in dating once we've both had more time to heal. I was surprised. I've always found her attractive and admired her strength, but never thought of her that way out of respect for her marriage. I told her I was open to the possibility, but suggested we take things very slowly. We've had dinner alone twice now, just talking and enjoying each other's company without pressure. Some people have questioned whether getting involved with Jen is appropriate or healthy. I understand the concern, but we're both adults who connected through a difficult experience. We've agreed to be completely honest about our feelings and expectations, and to step back if either of us feels we're moving forward for the wrong reasons. Life has a way of surprising you, both with how quickly people you trust can betray you, and with how resilient you can be in the aftermath. I won't say I'm grateful for what happened, but I will say I'm stronger for having gone through it. And I'm moving forward with clearer eyes about the people I allow into my life. Sometimes the most valuable lessons are also the most painful ones. During our divorce hearing, my wife walked in pregnant, smiling like she'd already won. She claimed it was mine, said I was trying to abandon my new family. The judge was about to speak, until I stood and said, "Your Honor, I've had a vasectomy since 2018. Her smile dropped. Her lawyer asked for a break. Now she's calling me 43 times a day. Before we start, I just want to say thank you for being here. It means the world. But take a look at this. Only 8% of people watching are subscribed. If you enjoy these stories and want to support more of them, just one click makes a huge difference." Burner account and names changed for obvious reasons. There's something surreal about sitting in a courtroom watching the person you once loved try to systematically destroy your life with a smile on their face. Even more surreal when they're using an unborn child as ammunition. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Some context. My soon-to-be ex-wife Tara and I were married for 7 years. We met in 2013, married in 2014, and things were good at first. Great, even. We both had promising careers, me in software engineering, her in corporate marketing. We traveled, renovated a house together, had the same vision of success. No kids, which became a major point of contention about 3 years into our marriage. I was diagnosed with a genetic condition that carries a 50% chance of being passed to biological children. The condition causes progressive nerve damage starting in mid-adulthood. I watched my father deteriorate from it, becoming wheelchair-bound by 50. I'm 36 now and already showing early symptoms, occasional numbness in my extremities, some balance issues. Not exactly something I wanted to risk passing down. When I received the diagnosis in early 2017, I was devastated. I remember sitting in the neurologist's office, holding the genetic test results while he explained what I was facing. That night, I told Tara everything. The prognosis, the hereditary nature, my fears about having biological children. "We have options," I said, holding her hands across our kitchen table. "Adoption, fostering, or even being child-free and focusing on our careers and travel." She squeezed my hands, tears in her eyes. "We'll figure it out together. Your health comes first right now." For almost a year, things were good. We researched adoption agencies. We spent time with our nieces and nephews. We seemed to be on the same page, or so I thought. Then around March 2018, things changed. Tara started making comments about how genetics aren't everything, and how medical science is advancing all the time. She'd leave fertility clinic brochures around the house. When I reiterated my stance, she'd get upset. "You're denying me a chance at motherhood," she said during one particularly heated argument in our bedroom. She'd thrown a fertility clinic brochure at me. "There are tests they can do, ways to screen embryos. The testing isn't 100% accurate," I replied, trying to stay calm. "And even if it was, I don't want to risk it. Why is adoption suddenly off the table?" She turned away, arms crossed. "It's not the same. I want to experience pregnancy. I want a child that's part of us." The arguments escalated over the next few months. I'd come home to find her watching birthing videos or browsing baby furniture online. When I'd remind her of our discussions, she'd either cry or lash out. Then came the incident in July 2018 that changed everything. I was looking for a receipt on our shared laptop when I discovered she'd been tampering with our birth control. There were searches on how to poke holes in condoms without leaving obvious damage, and calendar entries tracking her cycle with notes about when to forget her birth control pills. My blood ran cold when I found a forum open in her browser history where she was asking for advice on how to get pregnant when husband doesn't want kids. Someone had actually suggested getting him drunk enough that he wouldn't notice if protection wasn't used. Even worse, Tara had replied, "That might work. He rarely remembers details when he drinks whiskey." I sat there for hours, reading through weeks of her posts, feeling physically ill. This wasn't just a disagreement anymore. This was a fundamental breach of trust and bodily autonomy. I couldn't believe the woman I married would plot something like this. When Tara got home that evening, I confronted her with what I'd found. I'll never forget how quickly her expression changed, from shock at being discovered to a kind of desperate justification. "You're overreacting," she said, pacing our living room. "I was just venting online." "Venting? You were actively planning to trick me into fatherhood." I was shaking with anger and betrayal. That's when she broke down crying, collapsing onto our couch. "I'm desperate. I'm turning 35 next year. My biological clock is ticking while you keep stalling." "I'm not stalling. I have a genetic disease. We discussed this." "You'd come around once a baby was on the way," she insisted, wiping her tears. "You'd love our child no matter what. I just need to help you see what you really want." I slept in the guest room that night, unable to even look at her. The next morning, I called my doctor and made an appointment for a vasectomy consultation. I didn't tell Tara, not out of spite, but out of self-protection. I couldn't trust her anymore, and I needed to ensure I wouldn't be forced into parenthood against my will. The procedure happened in September 2017, while Tara was on a weekend trip with her sister. The doctor understood my situation and was supportive, especially given my genetic condition. I took a few days off work, telling Tara I had a project deadline and would be busy anyway. The recovery was quick, some ice packs and mild discomfort, nothing major. I planned to tell her after she returned and suggest marriage counseling to work through our fundamental disconnect. But the night she came home from her trip, she blindsided me with a bombshell of her own. "I think we should separate," she said over dinner, not even meeting my eyes. "I've already talked to a divorce attorney." I was stunned. Just like that? No counseling, no trying to work through this? What's there to work through? You won't give me children, and I can't waste my fertile years on someone who won't change his mind. She said it so coldly, like she'd rehearsed it. I didn't mention the vasectomy then. It seemed pointless since we were apparently heading for divorce anyway. We spent the next few weeks discussing logistics, how to split assets, who would move out. It was civil but tense. Then, inexplicably, in November 2018, about 2 months after she'd first mentioned divorce, Tara wanted to reconcile. She showed up at the apartment I'd been renting with takeout from our favorite restaurant and tears in her eyes. "I've been thinking," she said as we sat awkwardly at my tiny kitchen table. "Maybe I can accept a child-free marriage if that's what it takes to save us. We built a life together, Drew. I don't want to throw that away." I was suspicious but willing to try. 7 years together isn't something you discard easily. We agreed to counseling, and I moved back into our house in December 2018. For almost 10 months, things seemed better. We went to weekly therapy. We reconnected physically and emotionally. I nearly told her about the vasectomy several times, but the right moment never materialized. As time passed, it became an increasingly difficult topic to broach, especially as things were finally improving between us. Then in September 2019, while Tara was in the shower, her phone kept buzzing with text notifications. Normally I'd never check her messages, but after the birth control incident, I still had lingering trust issues. I glanced at her screen and saw messages from Mark W. with preview text that made my stomach drop. "Miss you too, baby. Can't wait until..." I knew Mark Wilson was her boss. Against my better judgment, I opened the messages. What I found shattered any hope of saving our marriage. Not only were they having an affair, but based on their conversation history, it had been going on for over 2 years, since early 2017, before my diagnosis, before all our fertility arguments. I scrolled back through months of messages, putting together the timeline. Their affair had continued through all our struggles about having children, through her threatening divorce, and even through our reconciliation. The reconciliation, I discovered, coincided perfectly with Mark temporarily relocating to the London office for a 9-month project. She'd essentially put me on hold while he was unavailable. When Tara emerged from the shower, I was sitting on the bed with her phone in my hand. "How long have you been sleeping with Mark?" I asked quietly. The color drained from her face. "Drew, I can explain." 2 years, Tara." 2 years? You were sleeping with him while making me feel like a monster for not wanting children." My voice broke. "You threatened divorce when I wouldn't give you a baby, then came back when he left the country. Was any of it real?" She didn't deny it. Instead, she tried to justify it. Mark understood her desire for children. Mark would have given her a family. Mark appreciated her in ways I didn't. I filed for divorce the next day, October 2019. This time, there was no turning back. The proceedings were contentious from the start. She wanted the house I'd largely paid for. I'd made the down payment with an inheritance from my grandmother, half my retirement account, and substantial alimony despite having a good job herself. Her lawyer painted me as cold and uncaring, citing my refusal to have children as evidence of my selfish nature. 4 months into the divorce process, in February 2020, came the hearing that would determine temporary asset allocation while the divorce proceeded. I arrived early with my lawyer, Sam Davidson, reviewing our documentation one last time in the hallway outside the courtroom. "We're in good shape," Sam assured me. "Your financial records clearly show your contributions to the marital assets. The judge assigned to our case is fair, but no nonsense." That's when I saw her walking down the hallway toward the courtroom, and my jaw nearly hit the floor. Tara was visibly pregnant. Not just slightly showing, she had to be at least 6 months along, her belly prominently displayed in a form-fitting dress I'd never seen before. She made deliberate eye contact with me as she approached, cradling her stomach with both hands, a triumphant smile playing at her lips. Sam grabbed my arm. "Did you know about this?" "No," I managed, still staring. "Impossible. We haven't been together since." "Pull yourself together," Sam whispered urgently. "Don't react. That's exactly what she wants." We entered the courtroom, taking our places at the respondent's table. My mind was racing, calculating dates. If she was that far along, the timing couldn't possibly match our separation. Unless, had she been pregnant during our reconciliation period and hidden it somehow? No, that didn't make sense either. Judge Harriet Winters entered, and we all rose. After the preliminaries, Tara's lawyer, a slick-looking man named Bennett, immediately addressed the court. "Your Honor, before we proceed, we'd like to amend our petition in light of recent developments." He gestured toward Tara. "As you can see, Mrs. Harmon is expecting. This significantly changes the financial considerations in this case." Judge Winters raised an eyebrow, looking between Tara and me, clearly noting Tara's advanced pregnancy. "I don't see any amended petition in my files, Counselor." "We'll be filing the formal amendment this week," Bennett replied smoothly. Given the advanced stage of Mrs. Harmon's pregnancy and today's scheduled hearing, we felt it important to bring this to the court's attention immediately. Tara placed her hand protectively over her belly, her expression angelically concerned. Bennett continued, his voice taking on an accusatory tone. Mr. Harmon has not only been attempting to divest himself of financial responsibility to his wife, but is now attempting to abandon his responsibilities to his unborn child. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Sam scribbled furiously on his legal pad. Paternity test ASAP. The judge turned toward me, her expression noticeably cooler. Mr. Harmon, were you aware of this pregnancy? Before I could answer, Bennett interjected. Your Honor, he was aware. Mrs. Harmon informed him during their last attempt at reconciliation, which we believe precipitated his abrupt filing for divorce. That was a bold-faced lie. Sam stood immediately to object, but Tara's lawyer wasn't finished. Furthermore, this pregnancy has complicated Mrs. Harmon's health, requiring her to reduce her work hours significantly. She's been diagnosed with gestational hypertension. This further necessitates adequate support from Mr. Rutt Harmon, who has shown callous disregard for his new family. Tara dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, the picture of a wounded, expectant mother. I just want what's best for our baby, she said softly, but loud enough to carry. The judge sighed, looking at me with thinly veiled contempt. Mr. Harmon, given these new circumstances? That's when I stood up. Sam tugged at my sleeve, but I gently shook him off. Your Honor, with all due respect, I've had a vasectomy since August 2018. The courtroom went completely silent. Tara's triumphant smile froze, then crumbled in real time. Her lawyer looked at her sharply, confusion evident in his expression. I have my medical records here, I continued, retrieving a folder from my briefcase. I'd started carrying the documentation after the divorce proceedings began, not because I expected this exact scenario, but because I wanted a complete record of my medical situation, including my choice not to have children, as well as 2 follow-up sperm count tests confirming the procedure's success. I am not the father of that child. Tara's lawyer stood up, clearly flustered. Your Honor, my client was not made aware of any such procedure. This is clearly a desperate attempt by Mr. Harmon to evade responsibility. Judge Winters held up her hand. Let me see those records, please. I handed the folder to the bailiff, who brought it to the judge. She carefully examined each document. The procedure was performed by Dr. Levinson at Mercy Medical Center on August 10, 2018, I explained. I have the records and receipts. I also have documentation of my genetic condition which prompted this decision, polycystic neuropathy, the same condition that caused my father's early death. Tara was visibly shaking now, her face ashen. Bennett leaned over to whisper something to her, but she jerked away from him. These appear to be in order, Judge Winters said after a moment. Mrs. Harmon, were you aware of this procedure? Tara stood, one hand still protectively cradling her belly. He never told me. He couldn't have. We were still intimate after that date. The procedure doesn't affect that aspect of function, Your Honor, I explained quietly. Only fertility. And yes, we were intimate during our reconciliation period, which began in November 2018, 3 months after my vasectomy. Her lawyer quickly requested a 15-minute recess, which the judge granted. As they huddled in fierce conversation at the far side of the courtroom, Sam looked at me with a mixture of relief and exasperation. A heads up would have been nice, he muttered. This could have gone south quickly if your records weren't in order. I didn't know she'd pull this, I replied, still processing the absurdity of the situation. I never thought she'd try to pass off another man's child as mine in court. Who do you think? Sam left the question hanging. Her boss, Mark. They've been having an affair for years. When the session resumed, Tara and her lawyer had clearly recalibrated their approach. Bennett adopted a completely different tone, claiming emotional distress due to my secretive medical procedure and arguing it constituted its own form of marital misconduct. Your Honor, while my client may have been mistaken about the paternity of her child, the underlying issue remains Mr. Harmon's deception. He underwent a major medical procedure affecting their marital relationship without informing his wife. Judge Winters was having none of it. Counselor, attempting to attribute paternity of another man's child to Mr. Harmon is a serious matter. Your client just testified under oath that this child is her husband's, which we've now established is biologically impossible. I suggest you confer with your client about the implications of perjury before proceeding further. She turned to address both parties. Given these developments, we will postpone today's hearing on temporary asset allocation. Mr. Bennett, you have 48 hours to submit a revised petition that accurately reflects your client's circumstances. Mr. Davidson, you may file a response within 72 hours thereafter. As she stood to leave, she added, "And Mrs. Harmon, I strongly advise you to be forthright in all future filings with this court. Attempting to mislead the court about paternity is grounds for sanctions." As I gathered my things, I caught Tara glaring at me with naked hatred. Her lawyer was still whispering urgently to her, but her eyes never left mine. The mask of wounded expectant mother had completely fallen away, replaced by the look of someone whose carefully constructed plan had just spectacularly backfired. In the hallway outside, she tried to approach me, mascara streaking down her face. "Drew, please let me explain." Her lawyer intercepted her, physically steering her toward the exit while whispering something that made her stop struggling. That was 3 days ago. Since then, my phone has been blowing up. 43 calls from Tara, countless texts ranging from tearful apologies to vicious accusations. She's claimed alternately that I tricked her by getting the vasectomy, that the baby might miraculously be mine despite the procedure, and finally, in her most recent messages, that she made a horrible mistake, but we could still work things out and be a family if I would just talk to her. Her boss, Mark, the affair partner and likely father, has apparently gone completely silent since she told him about the courtroom revelation. According to a mutual friend who works at their company, he's suddenly taken a personal leave from the firm and cleared his schedule for the next month. The following week brought more developments. Tara's lawyer formally withdrew from representing her. Apparently, he hadn't been informed about the pregnancy deception beforehand and wanted no part in continuing as her counsel after being blindsided in court. She quickly hired new representation, a lawyer with a reputation for aggressive tactics, but significantly less respected in legal circles. My lawyer filed for an expedited divorce process based on the attempted fraud, which the judge granted. Instead of the year-long process we were expecting, we received a final hearing date just 6 weeks out. 2 days before that final hearing, I received an unexpected visitor at my apartment, Tara's sister Claire. We'd always gotten along well, and she'd stayed neutral during the initial separation. "I owe you an apology," she said as she sat stiffly on my couch. "Tara told me you knew about the baby and were abandoning her." I believed her. "What changed?" I asked, offering her coffee, which she declined. "She finally admitted everything to me yesterday. The affair with Mark, trying to trick you into having children during your marriage, deliberately getting pregnant by Mark while planning to pass the child off as yours for the divorce settlement." Claire shook her head, disgusted. She calculated that if the court thought the baby was yours, she'd secure much more favorable terms and ongoing support. "And Mark?" I asked. "He wants nothing to do with her now. Apparently, he never wanted children either, one of the reasons she was having problems with both of you. When your lawyer sent his attorney the court transcripts." She trailed off. "Let's just say he's not stepping up." "I'm sorry she dragged you into this," I said, and meant it. Claire had always been kind to me. "I'm the one who's sorry," she replied. "I should have seen who she really was sooner." The final divorce hearing was mercifully straightforward. With Tara's deception exposed and documented, the judge was unsympathetic to her demands. She received no alimony, only her fair share of our joint assets acquired during the marriage. I kept the house, refinancing to remove her name and buying out her portion of the equity, my retirement accounts, and my grandmother's heirloom jewelry she'd tried to claim. As we left the courtroom for the last time, Tara, now heavily pregnant, attempted one final plea. "Drew, please," she said, catching my arm. "I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but this baby needs a father." I gently removed her hand. "I'm sure Mark will come around once the paternity test confirms what everyone already knows." "He won't," she whispered. "He's relocated to the Singapore office." "Then I'm sorry for your situation, but it's not my responsibility to fix it. I wish you and your child well, Tara, but our chapter is closed. It's been 6 months since the divorce was finalized. I've heard through mutual friends that Tara gave birth to a healthy baby boy and has moved back to her hometown to live with her parents." Mark apparently provides financial support, but remains in Singapore with no plans to return. As for me, I'm focusing on my health and future. I've started treatment for my condition with a specialist who's optimistic about new therapies that might slow the progression. I've kept the house, but renovated it extensively, removing all traces of my life with Tara and making it fully accessible for when my symptoms eventually worsen. The most unexpected positive outcome has been connecting with a support group for people with my condition. Through them, I've met others who chose not to have biological children for the same reason I did. For the first time, I don't feel defensive about that choice, just at peace with it. Sometimes I think about how differently things might have turned out if Tara and I had been honest with each other from the beginning, if I'd told her about the vasectomy immediately, if she'd been upfront about her unwillingness to consider alternatives to biological children, if she hadn't been carrying on an affair behind my back. But dwelling on what-ifs is pointless. The most valuable lesson from this whole experience is the importance of living authentically, even when it's difficult. No more hiding, no more compromising on fundamental values, no more relationships built on deception and manipulation. My life isn't perfect. My medical prognosis remains challenging, and some days the physical symptoms are frightening. But there's an overwhelming sense of rightness to my world now, a foundation of truth that was missing during those years of marriage. Sometimes the happiest ending isn't what you initially pictured for yourself. Sometimes it's just the quiet satisfaction of standing in your truth when it matters most, even if that means standing alone. My fiancée publicly humiliated me at our wedding as a prank, so I pulled a bigger one by canceling everything. Now she's begging for another chance. I, 28M, was supposed to marry Vanessa, 27F, the woman I thought was my soulmate. We had been together for 4 years, and while I knew she had a thing for pranks and attention, I never thought she'd take it too far. Turns out, I should have seen the warning signs. Vanessa had a habit of turning every serious moment into a joke. When I proposed, she pretended to say no for 5 full minutes before laughing and accepting. When I got a promotion, she made a big speech at the party about how I got lucky instead of acknowledging my hard work. She always said it was just for fun, but it was always at my expense. Still, I loved her. I thought, that's just who she is. But I started having doubts when her friends hinted at a big surprise. She had planned for the wedding. When I pressed for details, they just laughed and said, "Oh, you'll see." That set off alarm bells. I didn't know what she was planning, but I had a gut feeling it wouldn't be good. That's when I called my friend Mark, who happens to be a lawyer, and told him I need a little insurance. Together, we drafted a completely fake prenup, loaded with legal jargon, and one very specific clause. If either party engages in public embarrassment of the other before the signing of this contract, all jointly planned financial obligations are immediately nullified, and a public apology must be issued. It was completely unenforceable, but it looked real. I had it printed, signed, and ready, just in case Vanessa pulled something. Then came the wedding. Everything seemed perfect, until the moment we stood at the altar. Right before we were supposed to exchange vows, Vanessa grinned, took the microphone from the officiant, and said, "I have a little surprise for my wonderful soon-to-be husband." She turned to the crowd and dramatically waved toward the doors. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to the real love of my life." I froze. The guests turned in confusion as a man walked in. Vanessa's ex, Jason. Vanessa beamed. "Come on up, Jason. You didn't think I'd get married without my first love here, did you?" Jason strode up to the altar, grinning. The crowd murmured in confusion. I felt like I was in a bad dream. Then Vanessa turned to me with the biggest smile and said, "Babe, I just couldn't say I do without making sure Jason approved first. I mean, he was such a big part of my life and, well, we've been talking a lot lately." "Talking a lot?" Jason clapped me on the back and smirked. "Relax, man, it's just a joke." The bridesmaids laughed like this was the funniest thing in the world. But Vanessa wasn't done. "Oh, and just for fun, I had a little poll running among my bridesmaids this whole time. We were taking bets on whether I'd actually go through with the wedding or not." She whipped out her phone and showed a group chat, screens filled with laughing emojis. votes on whether she'd fake cold feet, and even bets on whether I'd cry at the altar. The room went dead silent. My mother looked like she was about to faint. My father's face turned beet red. My best man just muttered, "What the actual F?" I felt my hands shaking. Vanessa was standing there expecting me to just laugh it off. "Oh, come on, babe, lighten up. You didn't really think I was gonna leave you, right?" That's when I smiled, because I had the perfect response ready. The room was dead silent. Vanessa stood at the altar, grinning like she had just pulled off the greatest prank in history. Her bridesmaids were still giggling. Jason was standing beside me like he belonged there, and half the guests were looking at me with pity in their eyes. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. My mother was clutching my father's arm, looking like she was about to cry. My best man, Ryan, looked ready to swing at Jason. And Vanessa? She was still waiting for me to laugh along with her. "Oh, come on, babe," she said, nudging me. "Say something." I finally took a deep breath and smiled. "Wow," I said, shaking my head. This is amazing." Vanessa beamed. She thought I was going along with it. She had no idea that I had been ready for this moment. I turned to the officiant. "Hey, do we have a table for signing the marriage license? I need to grab something." The officiant, who looked just as horrified as the rest of the guests, nodded and gestured toward a small table off to the side. I calmly walked over, pulled a black folder from my bag, and held it up for everyone to see. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we go any further, I'd like to share a document with my dear fiancé." Vanessa tilted her head. "Wait, what?" I slowly unclipped the folder and pulled out the fake prenup. "Vanessa," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I had my lawyer draft up a little agreement before the wedding. Just a small precaution, just in case you ever decided to do something like this." I held up the contract so the guests could see the official-looking stamp on the bottom. Vanessa's face immediately lost its color. "What the hell is that?" she asked, her smile finally faltering. "Oh, just a little clause," I said, pretending to flip through the pages. "See this part right here? It states that if either party engages in public humiliation before the signing of the marriage license, then all joint financial obligations, like the wedding, honeymoon, and shared assets, are immediately null and void." The guests gasped. Vanessa blinked rapidly. "Wait, what? That's not real." "Oh, it's very real," I said smoothly. "It also requires the guilty party to issue a public apology, right here, in front of all of our guests." Jason snorted. "Dude, you can't be serious. This is a joke, right?" I turned to him and smirked. "Oh, I take pranks very seriously." Vanessa was starting to sweat. "Babe, this is crazy. You're not actually mad, are you?" I tilted my head. "Why would I be mad, Vanessa? This is hilarious. It's all part of the fun, right? So here's my prank. I'm canceling this entire wedding." Dead silence. Her smile shattered. "Wait, what?" "Oh, don't look so shocked," I said, snapping the folder shut. "You had your joke, now it's my turn. Wedding's off." The room exploded with whispers and gasps. The officiant awkwardly stepped back. Vanessa's face went from pale to bright red. "You're joking." "Am I?" I said, turning to my best man. "Ryan, would you do the honors?" Ryan grinned and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen and loud wedding music blared, except instead of the traditional march, it was Hit the Road Jack. Some guests laughed. Some just stared in shock. "Vanessa?" She looked like she was about to hyperventilate. "You're not serious," she hissed. "You're not walking away." I grinned. "I literally am." I turned to my parents. "I think we're done here." My mom nodded, and my dad immediately started telling guests that the wedding was over. Then I turned to Jason, who was still smirking like this was all a joke. "Hey, Jason," I said, "you like stealing people's fiancés, right? Well, congrats. She's all yours." That wiped the smirk off his face. Vanessa whirled around. "Jason, tell him this is stupid." Jason backed up. I think I'm gonna head out, actually." "What?" He was already walking down the aisle. Now everyone was whispering. The bridesmaids were awkwardly looking at their drinks, some guests were laughing outright, and Vanessa looked like her entire world just collapsed. "You can't just leave me like this," she screamed. I turned back one last time. "Vanessa, you love attention so much? Well, congrats. You're getting it." And with that, I walked out of my own wedding, leaving her standing there, alone, humiliated, and exactly where she deserved to be. Walking out of that wedding was the best decision of my life. As I stepped outside, my best man followed, along with my parents and a handful of guests who wanted nothing to do with Vanessa after what she had done. Behind me, she was still at the altar, screaming my name, but I didn't even turn around. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. My phone blew up with texts and missed calls from Vanessa. At first, she acted confused, as if she couldn't understand why I had left. Then came the anger. Furious messages about how I had humiliated her and how she couldn't believe I would ruin the wedding over something so minor. She insisted it was just a joke and that I had overreacted. When I ignored her, she switched tactics, saying she would tell everyone I had abandoned her at the altar. That was rich, considering she was the one who had turned our wedding into a circus. But she hadn't counted on one thing: receipts. My best man had screenshotted her bridesmaids group chat before we left, the same chat where they had been placing bets on whether she'd actually go through with the wedding or fake cold feet. That alone destroyed any attempt she made to rewrite the narrative. Word spread quickly. People who had been at the wedding started talking. Guests who had been uncomfortable with what she did now had the full context and weren't afraid to share it. Within a few days, her reputation was in shambles. Her own parents called me, apologizing for what she had done. Apparently, they had warned her not to pull any stunts at the wedding, but she hadn't listened. Even her friends, the ones who had egged her on, started distancing themselves when they realized how bad she looked. It was one thing to joke around, but publicly humiliating your fiancé at your own wedding? No one wanted to be associated with that. Then came the financial consequences. Vanessa tried demanding I pay her back for the wedding costs. That was funny, considering I had covered nearly everything. The venue, my card. The catering, my account. Even the honeymoon trip she had been so excited for, booked under my name. And with one phone call, I canceled it all. She was left with nothing. No wedding, no honeymoon, no sympathy. A week later, she showed up at my door. I wasn't surprised. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. It was clear that she finally realized how badly she had messed up. She tried to apologize, saying she hadn't meant for things to go so far, that she never thought I would actually leave. She tried to tell me she still loved me, that we could fix this if I just gave her a second chance. I wasn't interested. I handed her an envelope and watched as she opened it with shaking hands. Inside was an invitation, not a real one, just a mock wedding rehearsal set for the same venue where she had humiliated me. The date was today, and the guest list, everyone who had witnessed her stunt. There was no groom's name, just one simple note. Now we're even. She looked up at me, speechless. I didn't say a word. I just shut the door and walked away. Vanessa had wanted to turn our wedding into a joke. She got what she wanted, except the punchline was her own life falling apart. Vanessa never recovered from what happened. Her stunt went viral after someone shared clips from the wedding. People shredded her online, calling her the bride who got left as a joke. She lost job opportunities, friends, and even family support. Her bridesmaids abandoned her when they realized they'd be dragged down with her. Jason? He wanted nothing to do with her after the backlash. He ghosted her and moved on. I thrived. I took time to heal, focused on my career, and met someone who actually respected me. Meanwhile, Vanessa kept trying to reach out, emails, messages, even showing up at places she thought I'd be. I never responded. The last I heard, she was struggling financially and still single. She wanted a joke? She became the joke. My fiancé said, I can't say no to him. He was my first love. Then she left me 2 months before the wedding to be with her high school ex. Last week, she showed up at my door sobbing, after he was caught cheating with her sister. Hey viewers, just a quick thanks. Over 14% of you are already subscribed, and it means the world. If you're new here and enjoy these stories, join the family by hitting that subscribe button. We're on the road to 10,000. Alright, look, this whole situation has gotten completely out of hand and people keep asking for updates, so here's what happened. I'm Jake, 28, work as a marine biologist. Was engaged to Chloe, also 28, who teaches kindergarten. We'd been together 4 years, engaged for 1. Wedding was supposed to be this past March. Everything seemed fine until January when Chloe started acting weird. Staying late at school, always on her phone, giving short answers when I asked about her day. Classic signs, but I figured she was stressed about the wedding planning. Then one night she comes home and drops this bomb. Jake, I need to tell you something. Derek reached out to me. Derek, her high school boyfriend from like 10 years ago. The guy she dated for 2 years before college, lost her virginity to, all that first love garbage. I'd heard stories but figured it was ancient history. Okay, what did he want? He's getting divorced, asked if we could meet up to talk. Red flags everywhere, but I tried to stay calm. What did you tell him? I said yes, we're having coffee tomorrow. Coffee, with her ex, 2 months before our wedding. Chloe, that seems inappropriate. He's going through a hard time. I can't just ignore him when he needs support. He has friends and family for support. You're getting married. Jake, don't be controlling. Derek was a huge part of my life. I care about him as a friend. Friend, right. So she went to coffee, came home glowing like she'd won the lottery. Said Derek was doing great, getting his life back together, starting a new business. Kept talking about how mature he'd become. This coffee meeting turned into weekly coffee meetings, then texts throughout the day, then phone calls that she'd take outside or in the other room. I confronted her about it. Chloe, this is getting excessive. What's excessive about maintaining friendships? When did Derek become such an important friend? You haven't talked to him in years. People reconnect. It doesn't mean anything romantic. Then why are you hiding the phone calls? I'm not hiding anything. I just prefer privacy when I'm talking to friends. Privacy. While planning our wedding, things got worse. Chloe started comparing everything to what Derek was doing. Derek's new apartment, Derek's business plans, Derek's workout routine. Everything was Derek this, Derek that. Our wedding planning basically stopped. Chloe said she was too stressed to make decisions, but she had plenty of energy to text Derek all day. The final conversation happened on a Tuesday night in February. Chloe came home from drinks with the girls at like 11 p.m. I was worried since we usually share locations for safety, and when I checked earlier, she was at some restaurant across town, not where her friends usually go. How were drinks? Fine, just the usual drama. Which restaurant did you go to? She froze. Why does it matter? Just curious. We went to that place downtown, you know, the one with the patio. I pulled out my phone and showed her the location sharing. This restaurant, the one that's nowhere near downtown? Chloe's face went white. Jake, I can explain. Were you with Derek? Long pause. Yes. So you lied about girls' night to go on a date with your ex-boyfriend. It wasn't a date. We just grabbed dinner and talked. Dinner, alone, while lying to your fiancé. I knew you'd react like this. React like what? Like someone whose fiancé is sneaking around with her ex? Derek and I are just friends. Friends don't require lying and sneaking around. That's when she said it. Jake, you don't understand. Derek was my first love. When he calls, I can't just say no to him. Can't say no to him. 2 months before our wedding. What does that mean, Chloe? It means our history is complicated. What we had was special. More special than what we have. She couldn't answer that. Just stood there looking guilty. Chloe, are you in love with Derek? I don't know. Maybe. It's confusing. Maybe she was in love with her ex, 6 weeks before marrying me. Then I think you need to figure that out before we get married. Jake, please don't make this an ultimatum. I'm not making it anything. You just told me you can't say no to your first love and might be in love with him. That's not ultimatum territory. That's reality. I need time to think. How much time? I don't know. I looked at this woman I was supposed to marry in 6 weeks. The woman who couldn't say no to her ex-boyfriend and might be in love with him. Take all the time you need, Chloe. But this is my apartment, so you'll need to do your thinking somewhere else. What? Pack a bag. Go stay with your sister or your parents. Figure out what you want. Jake, you can't kick me out. It's my lease, Chloe. You moved in with me 2 years ago. I'm not kicking you out. I'm giving you space to decide between me and Derek without having to sneak around. That's not fair. What's not fair is you emotionally cheating on me with your ex while planning our wedding. Chloe packed a bag that night. Said she'd be back in a few days once she sorted out her feelings. She never came back. 3 days later, she called. Jake, I think we should postpone the wedding. Postpone or cancel? Postpone. I need more time to figure things out with Derek. Figure what out exactly? whether what we had was real or just nostalgia. And you need to be single to figure that out. I need to explore my feelings without the pressure of a wedding. Explore her feelings with her ex-boyfriend. Chloe, if you want to explore feelings with Derek, we're done. No postponing, no breaks, done. Jake, please don't be like this. Be like what? Someone who won't wait around while his fiancée dates her ex. I'm not dating him. What would you call it? I'm trying to understand my feelings. Understanding your feelings by going on dates and lying to me. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You want Derek more than you want our wedding, so go be with Derek. I never said I wanted Derek more. You said you can't say no to him. You said you might be in love with him. You've been lying and sneaking around for weeks. What else is there to say? I love you too. Not enough, apparently. I hung up. 2 weeks later, Chloe made it official. Called to say she was exploring a relationship with Derek and we should cancel the wedding. So you chose him. I chose to see what could be. Derek and I have unfinished business, and now it's finished. Jake, I hope we can be friends someday. We can't. I spent the next month canceling wedding vendors, returning deposits where possible, and dealing with the mess Chloe left behind. Lost about 15 grand total, but at least I wasn't married to someone who couldn't say no to her ex. Heard through mutual friends that Chloe and Derek were playing house in his new apartment. Saw some social media posts through friends' stories of them at fancy restaurants, weekend trips, the whole romantic reunion fantasy. Good for them. That was 6 months ago. Haven't talked to Chloe since. Moved on with my life, started dating again, focused on work. The whole thing felt like a bullet dodged. Until last week. I'm watching Netflix on a Tuesday night when someone starts pounding on my door. Aggressive knocking like there's an emergency. I look through the peephole and see Chloe standing there crying her eyes out. Haven't seen her in 6 months, and she looks rough. Hair a mess, makeup running, red puffy eyes like she's been crying for hours. Against my better judgment, I open the door. Jake, thank God you're home. What do you want, Chloe? Can I come in? Please, I need to talk to you. Talk about what? About Derek, about everything. I made a huge mistake. Of course she did. What happened? He cheated on me. With Brianna. Brianna, her younger sister, the one who was supposed to be her maid of honor at our wedding. Derek cheated on you with your sister? I caught them together last weekend. In our bed. Our bed, Jake. She was sobbing uncontrollably now. Part of me felt bad for her, but mostly I felt vindicated. I'm sorry that happened. No, you're not. You're right, I'm not. You left me for him. This is what you chose. I didn't choose this. I thought what Derek and I had was real. Apparently it was real. Real enough for him to bang your sister. Jake, please don't be cruel. I'm falling apart here. Why are you telling me this? Because I realize now that what you and I had was real. Derek was just nostalgia and fantasy. You were my actual future. My actual future. After 6 months of playing house with her high school ex, Chloe, you made your choice. I made the wrong choice. I see that now. Great, learn from it. Jake, please, can we try again? I know I hurt you, but I've learned my lesson. Your lesson being what exactly? That first love isn't always true love. That mature love is better than passionate love. That I should have chosen stability over excitement. She was literally describing me as the boring, stable option compared to exciting Derek. So I'm the safe choice? You're the right choice. After Derek rejected you by sleeping with your sister. That's not why I'm here. Then why are you here? Because I love you. Because I realize what we had was special. What we had was special. Past tense. You threw it away for your high school ex. I can't change what I did, but I can try to make it right. How? We can start over, take it slow, rebuild what we had. I looked at this woman standing on my doorstep. 6 months ago, she couldn't say no to her first love. Now she was begging me to take her back because that first love had cheated on her with her sister. Chloe, what makes you think I'd want to restart anything with you? Because we were good together. Because you loved me. I did love you. Then you left me for Derek. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Derek over me, excitement over stability, first love over real love. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. You said you couldn't say no to him. You said you might be in love with him. You chose to explore that instead of marrying me. I was confused. You weren't confused. You were selfish. You wanted to keep me as backup while you tested the waters with Derek. That's not true. Then why didn't you break up with me before exploring things with Derek? She couldn't answer that. Black Chloe, you tried to have both. When I forced you to choose, you chose Derek. Now Derek's shown you who he really is, and you want your backup plan back. You're not a backup plan. I'm exactly a backup plan. Derek was your first choice until he proved he's garbage. Now you want the safe option you threw away. Jake, please, I know I hurt you, but people make mistakes. Some mistakes show who you really are. You showed me that when things got complicated, you'd run to your ex instead of working on our relationship. I've changed. Have you? What happens when the next Derek shows up? When the next first love reaches out? There won't be a next Derek. There's always a next Derek, another ex, another exciting option, another test of whether you can say no. I would never do this again. You said you couldn't say no to Derek? That suggests a pattern. That was specific to Derek. Was it, or do you just get weak when someone from your past wants attention? She was crying harder now. Jake, I'm begging you. Give me another chance. I gave you a chance. 4 years and an engagement ring. You traded it for 6 months with Derek. It was a mistake. It was a choice, and choices have consequences. So that's it? You won't even consider it? Consider what? Dating someone who left me for her ex and only came back when he cheated on her with her sister? When you put it like that, that's exactly what happened. You chose Derek over our wedding. Derek chose your sister over you. Now you want me to choose you over my self-respect. It's not about self-respect. It's entirely about self-respect. What kind of man takes back a woman who left him for her high school ex? A forgiving man. A foolish man. I stepped back toward my door. Chloe, I'm sorry Derek hurt you. I'm sorry your sister betrayed you. But that's not my problem anymore. Jake, wait. Good luck figuring things out. Just don't involve me in the process. I closed the door and locked it. Chloe stood outside crying for another 10 minutes before finally leaving. She's texted a few times since then, apologizing, explaining, begging for another conversation. I haven't responded. Derek apparently moved in with Brianna after Chloe caught them. Chloe's staying with her parents and threatening to never speak to her sister again. The whole family's imploded over this mess. Their parents are mostly furious at Brianna since she knowingly went after her sister's boyfriend, but they're disappointed in Chloe too for the whole situation. Brianna's getting death threats from Chloe's friends. Derek's just enjoying the drama from what I hear. Meanwhile, I'm living my life in peace, dating someone new who doesn't have any exes she can't say no to. Someone who thinks loyalty matters more than nostalgia. Chloe wanted to explore her feelings with her first love. Well, she explored them thoroughly. Learned that first love doesn't mean lasting love. That excitement fades but character matters forever. Too bad she had to destroy our relationship to figure that out. She couldn't say no to Derek when he called. I couldn't say yes to her when she came crawling back. Sometimes the answer you give defines who you are.
Hey guys, YouTube says most of you watching aren't subscribed. If that's you, help a small channel grow. Takes a second. I post stories every day.
My fiancé said, I'm having doubts about us. Maybe we should take a break. 3 days before Valentine's Day. I said, take all the time you need. Then I unfollowed her on everything, took my mom to the dinner I booked, and posted a photo with the caption, best date I've ever had. She texted 32 times that night. This happened 2 weeks ago, and I'm finally ready to tell the whole story. My fiancée Sarah, 25, decided she needed a break 3 days before Valentine's Day. Yeah, you read that right. 3 days. We've been engaged for 8 months together for almost 3 years. Wedding planned for September, venue booked, invitations, ordered the works. Everything seemed fine until that Monday afternoon when she dropped this bomb out of nowhere. I was checking my phone between meetings when I got her text. Can we talk tonight? Something important. Came home expecting maybe wedding stress or family drama. Instead, Sarah was sitting on our couch looking all serious with her hands folded. I've been thinking a lot lately and I'm having doubts about us, she said. Maybe we should take a break before the wedding, just to be sure. I sat there for a second trying to process what she just said. 3 days before Valentine's Day. After 8 months of engagement, after I'd already made dinner reservations at Chez Laurent back in December. How long of a break are we talking about? I asked. I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a month. Just some time to think clearly without the pressure of planning a wedding. Here's the thing. Sarah's been weird for about 2 weeks now. Staying late at work more often. Being secretive with her phone. Going out with her friend Kelly every weekend. The classic signs, but I figured it was just pre-wedding stress. Take all the time you need, I said. She looked surprised, like she expected me to fight for her or beg her to reconsider. Instead, I just nodded and went to the kitchen to make dinner. For myself. That's it, she asked. You're not going to try to change my mind. You said you need time to think, Sarah. I'm giving you that time. She packed a bag that night, said she was staying with Kelly for a while. Gave me this whole speech about how mature I was being and how this was probably best for both of us. I just listened and helped her carry her stuff to the car. The second her taillights disappeared, I pulled out my phone and started making some changes. Update 1, Tuesday. Tuesday morning, I woke up with a plan. Sarah wanted a break, so I was going to give her the most complete break possible. Started by unfollowing her on everything. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, the whole social media ecosystem. Blocked her too, so she couldn't see my posts either. Complete digital separation. Next, I called my mom. Hey mom, what are you doing Thursday night for Valentine's Day? Nothing special, honey. Why? Want to go to dinner with me? I made reservations at Chez Laurent back in December and I'd hate to waste them. My mom was confused at first, thought something happened between Sarah and me. Which technically it did, but I just told her Sarah was dealing with some personal stuff and I wanted to take my favorite lady out instead. Oh sweetie, that sounds wonderful. I haven't been to a nice restaurant in ages. Perfect. The reservation was already for 2 people, so no changes needed. Sarah texted me Tuesday afternoon. How are you doing with everything? Good. Taking your advice about using this time productively. What does that mean? Just focusing on myself, self-improvement and stuff. She didn't respond for 3 hours, then sent, okay, good. I'm glad you're handling this well. I was handling it perfectly. Update 2. Wednesday was when things got interesting. Sarah's friend Kelly called me around lunchtime. Hey Mike, what's going on with you and Sarah? She needed some time to think, so I'm giving her space. She says you're being weird about the whole thing, like too cool with it. How should I be acting, Kelly? I don't know, maybe a little more upset. She's kind of surprised you're not fighting for her more. This was rich. Sarah dumps me 3 days before Valentine's Day, and I'm supposed to chase after her begging for another chance. I respect her decision, Kelly. If she needs time to figure out if she wants to marry me, then she should take that time. But don't you want to work things out? Can't work things out with someone who's having doubts about our entire relationship, Kelly. Ball's in her court now. Kelly got quiet, then said she had to go. 20 minutes later, Sarah texted me. Kelly said you two talked. Are you really okay with all this? You asked for a break, Sarah. I'm giving you one. But we should probably talk about boundaries and stuff. Like, are we seeing other people during this break? The audacity was incredible. She wanted to keep me on the back burner while she figured out her feelings. You said you needed time to think clearly, Sarah. Do whatever helps you think clearly. That doesn't answer my question, Mike. I'm not your fiancé right now, Sarah. You made that clear Monday night. I don't owe you updates on my social life. She tried calling me after that, but I let it go to voicemail. The message was 10 minutes of her explaining how breaks don't mean we're completely broken up and we should establish ground rules and communicate better. I deleted it without finishing. Update 3. Thursday, Valentine's Day. Thursday was game day. I picked up my mom at 5:30 looking sharp in my best suit. She looked amazing too, dressed up like we were going to the opera. You clean up nice, Mom. So do you, sweetie? Are you sure about this fancy place though? Mom, you raised me by yourself for 18 years. You worked 2 jobs to put me through college. You deserve every expensive meal I can afford. We got to Chez Laurent and they seated us at our reserved table. Perfect lighting, great view of the restaurant, amazing atmosphere. My mom was practically glowing. She was so happy. Michael, this place is gorgeous. The prices, though, are you sure about this? Absolutely sure, Mom. We had an incredible time. 3 courses, wine pairings, the works. My mom told me stories about her dating days I'd never heard before. We laughed until our sides hurt, and she teared up when I gave her flowers. You're going to make some woman very happy someday, she said. I'm making my favorite woman happy right now. Around dessert, I pulled out my phone and took a picture of us. My mom looked radiant and happy, and I looked genuinely content. Posted it on my public Instagram account with the caption, "Best date I've ever had. Love you, Mom." The response was immediate. My phone started blowing up with likes and comments from friends, family, coworkers, the whole network. Everyone thought it was sweet that I took my mom out for Valentine's Day. We finished dinner around 9:30, and I drove my mom home. By the time I got back to my apartment around 10:15, my phone was absolutely nuclear. Sarah had somehow seen my post, probably through mutual friends, and the messages were coming in waves. I counted them as they arrived. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you're having a nice night. Saw your post, that's really sweet. Wait, you took your mom to dinner tonight. Is that the reservation you made for us? Are you kidding me right now? This is so petty, Mike. Everyone is going to think we broke up. You need to call me right now. I can't believe you're being this childish. Delete that post immediately. People are asking me questions I don't know how to answer. My sister just called asking if the wedding is off. Mike, please call me. This isn't funny anymore. You're embarrassing me in front of everyone. We need to talk about this like adults. You can't just ignore me. Fine, be immature, see if I care. Actually, I do care, call me back. Please, Mike, I'm sorry about everything. Can we just talk for 5 minutes? I know you're reading these. Your mom looked really happy tonight. I miss you. This break was a mistake. I want to come home tomorrow. I love you. I don't want to lose you. I'm coming over tomorrow morning. We can fix this. 32 messages between 10:15 p.m. and 2:30 a.m. I screenshot every single one, then put my phone on silent and went to bed with the biggest smile on my face. Update 4 Friday. Friday morning, Sarah showed up at our apartment at 7 a.m. I was drinking coffee and reading the news when she started pounding on the door. Mike, open up, I know you're in there. I took my time finishing my coffee, then opened the door. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into the apartment. About what, Sarah? About last night, about that post, about this whole break. What about it? You made it look like we broke up, Mike. My grandmother called me this morning asking if the wedding was off. Did you tell your grandmother you're having doubts about marrying me? That's not the point. That's exactly the point, Sarah. You wanted a break, so I gave you one. Complete separation. I didn't mean we should act like strangers. What did you mean then, Sarah? Because you said you needed time to think about whether you want to marry me. That sounds pretty serious. She started crying then, not the manipulative kind, but genuine tears of panic. I made a mistake, Mike. I was stressed about the wedding, and I said something stupid. I don't actually want a break. Too late for that, Sarah. You asked for time to think, so I'm giving you time to think. But everyone thinks we broke up now. The Instagram post made it obvious. I posted a picture with my mom, Sarah. If people think that means we broke up, maybe you should ask yourself why. Because you used our Valentine's dinner reservation and posted about having the best date ever. My Valentine's dinner reservation, Sarah. You gave up claim to that evening when you decided you needed a break. She tried every angle. Apologizing, promising it would never happen again, saying she was just scared about marriage. I listened patiently, then asked one simple question. Do you still have doubts about marrying me? She hesitated for just a second too long. I knew it, I said. You don't get to have doubts and keep me as a backup plan, Sarah. Either you want to marry me, or you don't. It's not that simple, Mike. It's exactly that simple, Sarah. Yes or no, do you want to marry me? Another hesitation. Get out, I said. Update 5, weekend and beyond. The weekend was wild. Sarah apparently spent Friday calling everyone we knew, trying to control the narrative. Told people we had a small disagreement, but everything was fine. Problem was my Instagram post was still up and people weren't buying her story. My cousin Emma called Saturday morning. Mike, What's really going on? Sarah called my mom saying you guys are working through some issues, but that post looked pretty final. Sarah asked for a break, Emma. I gave her one. A break 3 days before Valentine's Day. That's cold even for Sarah. Wait, what do you mean even for Sarah? Nothing. Forget I said anything. Emma, what do you mean even for Sarah? Just that she's always been kind of high maintenance, Mike. Remember your birthday party last year when she made you leave early because she wasn't getting enough attention? Turns out people had been noticing Sarah's behavior for a while, but nobody wanted to say anything. Emma told me about 3 different occasions where Sarah had thrown fits or made scenes because she wasn't the center of attention. Honestly, Mike, everyone was kind of surprised when you proposed. We all thought you were too good for her. Sunday, Sarah tried showing up again, but I didn't answer the door. She left flowers and a handwritten letter apologizing for everything and begging for another chance. I threw both in the trash without reading the whole letter. Monday morning, I called the wedding venue to start the cancellation process. They required written notice and said there would be fees, but I didn't care. Best money I ever spent. Final update. It's been 2 weeks since Sarah's brilliant idea to take a break, and the aftermath has been incredible. First, the practical stuff. Canceling the wedding cost about $4,000 between the venue catering and other deposits. Worth every penny to avoid a lifetime of Sarah's drama. She moved the rest of her stuff out last weekend. Had Kelly and another friend help while I was at my mom's house. Left the engagement ring on the kitchen counter with another letter I didn't bother reading. The social media fallout was beautiful. Sarah posted some vague stuff about working through challenges and focusing on personal growth. Everyone saw right through it, especially after my Valentine's Day post got over 150 likes and dozens of comments about what a good son I am. My mom has been telling that story to everyone she knows. How her son took her to the fanciest restaurant in town and made her feel like a queen. She keeps saying it was the best Valentine's Day she's had in years. Sarah tried reaching out a few more times through mutual friends. Always the same message about how sorry she was and how she wanted to work things out. My response was always the same. She asked for time to think, so I'm giving her all the time in the world. Last week I found out the real reason for her sudden doubts. Kelly let it slip to someone who told my cousin Emma. Apparently Sarah's been texting her ex-boyfriend from college who moved back to town in January. Nothing physical according to Kelly, but definitely emotional cheating. She wanted a break to explore her options while keeping me as plan B. When I gave her the complete break she asked for instead of fighting for her, she panicked and realized grass isn't always greener. Too bad. I'm done being anyone's safety net. The best part is I've been happier these past 2 weeks than I was the last 6 months with Sarah. No more walking on eggshells worrying about her moods or trying to anticipate her next drama. My mom and I have dinner plans every Thursday now. She says I seem lighter, like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. She's not wrong. Sarah can take all the time she needs to think. Meanwhile, I'm moving forward with my life and sleeping great at night, knowing I dodged a massive bullet. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Hey viewers, hope you enjoyed the story. What I love about this story is how it exposes the real game she was playing. She didn't want a break to think about their relationship. She wanted a break to explore other options while keeping him as a backup plan. The ex-boyfriend detail at the end confirms what we all suspected from the beginning. And notice how she panicked when he actually gave her what she asked for. Those 32 texts in one night tell you everything you need to know. Suddenly it was all a mistake. She was just stressed. She didn't really mean it. But our guy didn't fall for the backtrack. He stuck to his guns and made her live with the consequences of her choices. This guy saved himself from a lifetime of drama with someone who clearly didn't value what she had until it was gone. The wedding would have been a disaster. The marriage would have been worse. Sometimes when people show you who they really are, the best thing you can do is believe them and act accordingly. My fiancé said, "I'm moving in with Anthony. We're having a baby together. I replied, congratulations, then canceled her engagement ring, returned her car, and changed every password. 6 hours later, she was at my door, sobbing that Anthony had kicked her out. I, 36M, am writing this from my kitchen table, staring at a half-empty coffee cup and trying to process how fast your entire future can implode. It was Thursday around 2 p.m. when my phone rang. Sarah, 31F, my fiancée of 8 months. We'd been together 3 years, lived together in my house for the past year and a half. The conversation was short, brutal, and weirdly formal. David, I need to tell you something. I'm moving in with Anthony. We're going to have a baby together. I'm picking up my things tonight. Anthony, 29M, her personal trainer. The guy she'd been working out with religiously for the past 4 months. I'd even paid for the sessions, thinking I was being supportive. My brain kind of froze for a second. The words didn't compute immediately. Congratulations. I said it flat, emotionless, like I was confirming a dinner reservation. That's it? That's all you have to say? What else is there to say? You've made your decision. I thought you'd fight for me or something. You're pregnant with another man's child and moving in with him, Sarah. There's nothing to fight for anymore. Then I hung up. The weird thing was how calm I felt. Almost detached, like I was watching someone else's life implode. But under that calm, my mind was already working. First things first, the engagement ring. Called the jewelry store where I'd bought it 6 weeks ago, explained the situation. The manager was sympathetic, said they had a 60-day return policy for situations like this, minus a restocking fee. Drove there immediately, returned the ring, got back $11,000 out of the $12,000 I'd spent. Next, the car. Sarah drove a leased BMW that I'd co-signed for about 10 months ago. The payments came out of my account automatically. Logged into the leasing company's website, removed my payment method, called them directly, explained I was removing myself as guarantor effective immediately. They said she'd need to qualify on her own income or return the vehicle by the end of the month. Her personal training instructor salary wasn't going to cut it. Then I went home and started changing everything. Wi-Fi password, changed. Netflix, Disney Plus, all streaming accounts, logged out all devices, changed passwords. Home security system, changed the code. Her gym membership that I paid for, canceled. Credit card where she was an authorized user, called and removed her immediately. The whole process took maybe 3 hours. Methodical, efficient. By 5 p.m., I was sitting in my living room, everything secured, waiting to see what would happen next. 6:30 p.m., my doorbell rings. I look through the security camera. It's Sarah, crying, mascara running, holding 2 suitcases. I open the door but keep the chain on. David, please, we need to talk. Anthony kicked me out. Why would Anthony kick out his pregnant girlfriend? It's complicated. He said he needs time to process everything. He wasn't ready for me to move in yet. The entitlement was staggering. She'd blown up our life expecting Anthony to seamlessly take over supporting her, and when that fell through, she was back at my door. That sounds like an Anthony problem, not a David problem. You can't just cut me off like this. I can't get into any of the accounts. The car payment got declined. My gym membership is canceled. You said you were moving in with Anthony. These are Anthony's responsibilities now. Please, just for tonight, until I figure things out. No, Sarah. You made your choice this morning. You chose Anthony and his baby over our life together. I'm respecting that choice. Her face went from desperate to angry to panicked. This is insane. You're punishing me for being honest with you. I'm not punishing you. I'm accepting your decision. You wanted a different life with Anthony. Go build it, but I have nowhere to go. You have Anthony. You have family, you have friends. Figure it out. I closed the door and turned the deadbolt. She banged on it for about 10 minutes, crying, yelling, then finally left. The silence was actually peaceful. Update 1. It's been 48 hours since Sarah's announcement, and the fallout has been predictable. Thursday night, after she left my doorstep, I got a barrage of texts from new numbers. Clearly she was borrowing phones since I'd blocked her main one. David, please, I made a huge mistake. Anthony isn't who I thought he was. I'm staying at a motel. I can't afford this. Please just talk to me. I screenshotted them all and didn't respond. Friday morning, her sister Jessica called my work phone. David, what the hell is wrong with you? Sarah is devastated. She's practically homeless. Sarah announced she was moving in with Anthony and having his baby. I respected her decision. She made a mistake. Anthony turned out to be a complete asshole. He basically used her and threw her away. That's unfortunate, but it's not my problem to solve. She needs help. She has nowhere to go. She has family. She has friends. She has Anthony, who's the father of her child. Anthony wants nothing to do with her now. Again, not my problem. She chose him over me. You're being cruel. I'm being realistic. She ended our relationship to be with someone else. I'm not a backup plan. Hung up, blocked that number too. Friday afternoon, Sarah's mom called. That was fun. David, I'm ashamed of you. Sarah's pregnant and you threw her out like garbage. Linda, Sarah announced she was leaving me for another man and having his baby. I didn't throw her out. She left. But she changed her mind. She realized she made a mistake. She realized Anthony wasn't going to support her like I did. That's not changing her mind. That's facing consequences. She needs stability right now. She's carrying a child. Anthony's child. Anthony's responsibility. You're heartless. I'm practical. Your daughter chose someone else. I'm respecting that choice. The best part? I found out through a mutual friend that Anthony didn't just kick Sarah out. He's apparently married. Has been the whole time. His wife found out about the affair and the pregnancy, and Anthony immediately cut all contact with Sarah to save his marriage. So Sarah didn't just lose her fiancé and her comfortable life with me. She lost her affair partner too. And she's pregnant with a married man's baby who wants nothing to do with her. The hits keep coming. Got a call from the BMW dealership today. Sarah apparently went there trying to explain the situation, hoping they'd work with her. They told her exactly what I already knew. Without a cosigner with good credit, she doesn't qualify for the lease. She has until the end of the month to return the car or face repossession. She's been posting cryptic things on social media about learning who people really are and fake love. A few mutual friends have reached out asking what happened. I tell them the simple truth. She left me for someone else. It didn't work out, and now she's dealing with the consequences. Most people get it. The ones who don't weren't really my friends anyway. Spent the weekend cleaning out the last of her stuff from the house, things she didn't grab in her rushed packing Thursday night. Boxed it all up, labeled it clearly. If she wants it, she can arrange pickup. I'm not delivering anything. The house feels different now. Quieter, but in a good way. No more walking on eggshells wondering if she's texting Anthony. No more paying for gym sessions with her trainer. No more subsidizing a lifestyle for someone who was planning to leave me for another man. Update 2. 1 week since the phone call that changed everything. The entitlement has reached new heights. Monday morning, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text. An actual certified letter from Sarah. She'd had it delivered to my workplace. The letter was 3 pages of handwritten drama about how I abandoned her in her time of need and how she never meant for things to happen this way. The kicker was the last paragraph where she demanded I pay for her hotel costs until she gets back on her feet and suggested we go to couples counseling to work through this betrayal. The betrayal. She cheated on me, got pregnant by another man, announced she was leaving me for him, and I betrayed her by not funding her life afterward. I showed it to my lawyer friend Tom over lunch. He laughed so hard he nearly choked on his sandwich. She wants you to pay her bills after she left you for another guy, and she called it your betrayal? Apparently I'm supposed to be her safety net indefinitely. Save this letter. If she escalates, this shows her mindset clearly. Tuesday, the financial reality hit her harder. Got a call from my bank. Sarah had tried to use the credit card I'd canceled. Multiple attempts at different stores. The bank flagged it as potential fraud until I explained the situation. Called the credit card company, confirmed she was no longer an authorized user, and asked them to note that any attempts to use the card were unauthorized. Wednesday brought the family intervention. Sarah's parents showed up at my house unannounced. I watched them through my security camera for a few minutes before answering. Linda, David, we need to talk. Sarah's dad, Mike, looked uncomfortable but determined. Son, Sarah made a mistake, but you can't just cut her off completely. Mike, she didn't make a mistake. She made a calculated decision to leave me for another man. The fact that it didn't work out doesn't make it my responsibility. She's pregnant. She needs support. Anthony's baby. Anthony's support, or your support, not mine. Anthony is married. He was using her. That's something she should have figured out before cheating on me with him. Look, we know she messed up, but there's no but, Mike. She chose Anthony. I'm respecting that choice. She's made adult decisions. These are adult consequences. They tried for another 20 minutes, cycling through guilt, logic, and finally threats about doing the right thing. I stayed calm, stuck to facts, and eventually they left. Thursday was when things got really pathetic. Sarah showed up at my gym, the one I still go to, not the fancy place where she met Anthony. She cornered me by the free weights. David, please just listen to me for 5 minutes. You have 3 minutes. Clock's ticking. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I'm pregnant and scared and I don't know what to do. 2 minutes. Anthony lied to me about everything. He's married. He never intended to leave his wife. He just wanted to have an affair. I was so stupid. 1 minute. I miss you. I miss us. I know we can work through this if you just give me a chance. Time's up. Sarah, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. You chose to cheat with Anthony. You chose to get pregnant by him. You chose to leave me for him. The fact that he turned out to be exactly what everyone except you could see doesn't change any of that. But I love you. No, you love what I provided. Stability, financial security, someone to take care of you. Anthony offered excitement and adventure until reality hit. Now you want your safety net back. That's not true. You announced you were having another man's baby and moving in with him. Everything I did afterward was just accepting that reality. If Anthony had been everything you thought he was, you'd be happily setting up house with him right now. I grabbed my towel and headed for the exit. Find a new gym, Sarah. This one's mine. Got a text later that evening from Jessica. You're a heartless bastard. Sarah is sleeping in her car. My response, she chose Anthony. These are Anthony's consequences to manage. Block Jessica permanently. Final update. It's been 3 months since Sarah announced she was leaving me for Anthony. Time for the final chapter on this mess. The immediate aftermath of my last update saw Sarah's situation spiral quickly. Turns out sleeping in a BMW you can't afford while pregnant isn't sustainable. She lasted about a week before the car got repossessed. I drove by the lot where they towed it, saw it sitting there with the dealer plates back on. Her parents finally stepped up, sort of. They let her move back into her childhood bedroom, but from what I've heard through mutual friends, it's been a disaster. Sarah expected them to provide the same lifestyle I had: eating out, shopping trips, entertainment budget. Instead, she got basic room and board and lectures about responsibility. The pregnancy itself became another complication. Anthony, in his desperation to save his marriage, apparently convinced his wife that Sarah was lying about the paternity. He demanded a prenatal DNA test. Sarah agreed, probably hoping it would force him to step up. Results came back. Definitely his kid. Anthony's response wasn't to leave his wife for Sarah. It was to lawyer up and prepare for a custody fight while offering minimal child support. His wife kicked him out anyway, but he's fighting to keep Sarah from getting anything substantial. So now Sarah's facing single motherhood with a part-time job, living with her parents, and a baby daddy who treats her like a legal obligation. The best part happened about 6 weeks ago. I was at a coffee shop near my office when I spotted her across the street, very obviously pregnant now, struggling with grocery bags. For just a moment, I felt a flicker of something. Not sympathy exactly, but recognition of shared history. Then I remembered her standing in my living room, announcing she was having Anthony's baby and moving in with him. I finished my coffee and went back to work. Last week, Jessica tried one more approach through my coworker. Asked if I'd be willing to help Sarah, for old time's sake, maybe contribute to baby expenses since I used to care about her. My response was simple. Sarah chose Anthony to be her baby's father. These are Anthony's expenses. The entitlement never stops. Even now, facing the full consequences of her choices, she and her family still think I should clean up the mess she made. As for me, life is good, really good. The house is mine again. My finances are mine again. I don't have to wonder who my partner is texting or worry about funding someone else's affair. Started dating someone new last month. Michelle, a 33-year-old architect I met through friends. She's smart, independent, pays her own bills, and has never mentioned needing a personal trainer. It's refreshing to be with someone who doesn't see me as a financial plan. The revenge wasn't elaborate or dramatic. It was just letting Sarah face the natural consequences of her choices. She wanted Anthony and his baby. She got Anthony and his baby, along with everything that came with it. A married man who used her, a custody battle, single motherhood, and the collapse of the comfortable life she threw away. She gambled our relationship on Anthony being her upgrade. She lost that bet, and the house always wins. Sometimes the best revenge is just stepping aside and letting people destroy themselves. Thanks for reading Reddit. Time to close this chapter permanently.